everyone, my name is Mike Geig, and welcome to another episode of Unity Behind the Game. Today we are talking about Humankind by Amplitude Studios, and I'm joined here by Romain de Waubert and Tim Raulin. Howdy guys, how you doing?
Good in you.
Oh, excellent. Roman made a kind of some notice there right before we started that Tim's microphone, it's not actually a distance thing. He actually just has a very gigantic microphone. It's actually right next to him. And so it's just, anyway, it's not a good joke, but whatever.
We have small offices, so we get small people in big microphones.
There you go. That's just how you do it. Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us here. And before we dig into talking about the game Humankind, tell me a little bit about Amplitude Studios, where you guys came from, just sort of how the studio was founded, and just sort of the story so far.
So we started that amazing story like maybe 10 years ago. Actually, we could say even more than that, but we're just a bunch of people working together. At the time, we were all at Ubisoft and working on several games like Might and Magic, Dark Messiah, Clash of Heroes, and we're big strategy fans, and we're dying to create our own company to do 4Xs, and at the time it's PC already in 2010, and strategy was kind of being seen as a kind of dying genre. So when you asked around, hey guys, you ought to do that, nobody really wanted to talk to you anymore. So like, okay, that's weird. So it's like to create our own company because we, so at least we would agree with ourselves that it could be fun, and that's it. So that's how it started, and with Endless Space, because Endless Space was a bit easier for us to do. We were dreaming already of Humankind, but we knew we wanted to learn a bit along the way, and at the same time, we've been like big fans of other Space 4Xs, and we felt like it could have benefit from like a bit of a refresh. So and that's why also we invested so much in the universe, in the Endless universe, to try to make the Space 4X more appealing.
So one of the things that you had said, when we spoke earlier, is that you went, obviously, a lot of folks from Ubisoft and stuff, without any real 4X game development experience, and the first thing you did was make a 4X game. Like, why that? That seems like a pretty big jump. The 4X, genre is fairly complex. And actually, real quick too, why don't you just, for anyone who may not know what 4X means, would love to have you also talk a little bit about that.
Well, basically, for X, it's all about, so it's expand, explore, exploit, exterminate. It's a journalist, I think, like 30 years ago or 25 years ago, who invented that term. And basically, it's more or less this kind of empire building, like kind of games, where you will be in charge of your own people, your economy, your armies, but war doesn't have to be the only way, and that's why it's also games about making friends, diplomacy, about evolution over time, and it could have a lot of variants, around that. But the idea is like empire building, and so it generally are huge games.
Mm-hmm. And so, why the jump into 4X, like right off the bat?
So big fans, but each time we're showing the 4X, we're playing to our friends, our girlfriends. Everyone was running away from it, saying like, and suddenly we felt nearly ashamed, playing our 4Xs. So we had to hide in our office or in the closet to be able to play it in peace. And we realized that we would love to be able to create 4Xs that we'll be proud to show and to be able to invite people to join us and play this game, and when we'd be playing them, people could be intrigued, so that was, I think, our main goal, and that's why we decided to try to bring as much as we can some of the this kind of, if we could say, AAA production values in an environment which tends to be very focused around game design and mechanics. It's a very mechanic heavy genre, and to make it fun, basically. think basically it's an objective, that kind of worked. That's why we invested so much on the music, on the writing. Normally I think before it was often the designer taking care of all that. It's also why we have Tim also with us to make these games look beautiful as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely get into the graphic stuff. Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Yes, I think the 4X was never very beautiful. It's always crude, and I'm very happy to add the technique that is needed to have a very beautiful landscape, and a beautiful world, beautiful UI, and things like that, to bring some more modern techniques to the genre.
We used to call it between among ourselves programmers games for programmers, basically. That's what we're trying to go out of.
Awesome. So, all right. So, I mean, that great goals, and obviously very cool how the studio started. Endless Space 2. I played a lot of Endless Space 2. And of course, as I was telling you guys, I mean, I'm only interested in one of the X's, and that's Extermination. I always just go straight military in these games. And I know everyone's like, you should try one of the other options. And I'm just like, I start, and then I love giant planet eradicating lasers. In armies. It's just how I play. But so Humankind obviously very different from Endless Space. So tell me a little bit about Humankind, like the story, the gameplay, the sort of the concept behind it.
So in Humankind, it's a game about rewriting the history of humanity. So it is basically a huge endeavor, as we can imagine, and what we want we want to have a special look at it, which is, if you look around you in history, most countries of today, if we could say maybe sometimes civilizations of today, are kind of combinations of culture that happen throughout history. Us French people, we could say we could have maybe Greek and then Romans and then also Celtics, Germanic, and many other Vikings, with Normandy, a lot of different English. Half of France was English, but anyway, I think we could never stop. But what if all these people left a trace of their passage, and that define who we are today, and that's the look that we have of it, and say, okay, in Humankind, the game, we want you to be able to play throughout history, pick any of these cultures, and as time goes, you may decide at one point to evolve into another culture without losing anything from the previous culture. So you always build upon, and by doing so, you can create the civilization of your dreams. So I think that's one of the key concepts of Humankind, which is, I think, great for immersion, because I think it, in a way, relates a lot to history. But it's also great also for game mechanics, because you can also decide to play it more in gameplay, saying, okay, I want to have the best, horse riding, civilization, or I want to be the best in science. How can I combine what cultures? So that's, I think, one of the idea with it, and the chance that we have is to be able to put all that on a beautiful earth, and also it's a lot of work we do also with team for that, where elevation is important, where, because the battles will happen on that same map and not on another map. So this is where our armies will deploy to be able to give like a very rich tactical environment, and it's also a lot of the learnings that we have, from Endless Legends. Our previous game, or one of our previous games, it's basically, it was a dream that we had a few years ago, and now it's shipping up. So.
So speaking of a dream you had a few years ago, you had said at one point that this game is like 30 years in the making. Like, what do you mean by that?
No, it's basically the reason why for me I'm in the industry. So it was to be able to make that game. I wanted to make a historical for X when I started. It's more like 25 years ago, but 25 years ago, when you wanted to start in the industry, first of all, when you said you're a designer, nobody really wanted to hire you, because you don't hire designers. You're programmers and you become a designer, or you're an artist and you become a designer. I mean, you are in the team already, and supposedly you know how to do something concrete about the game, not just being a designer. So but anyway, I was lucky enough to be hired as the first designer of the company I was hired by, and then basically, since then they hired like dozens of designers, and that's how it started. And then the thing. It was how to make it true, concrete. How to achieve that, and we're lucky to be able to find great people along the way that share the same dream. And so I felt a bit less crazy, to see I'm not the only one on earth who wants to do a historical 4X, and Sega, on the latest on the crazy list, to say yes, they want to do that as well. So it's cool.
Awesome. So, one thing is, we always like to sort of talk about what your sort of ideal player would look like, right? Your target market, or who's the person that this game will really, really speak to. Let's call this person Ashley. How would you describe Ashley?
Ashley loves history. Already, she loves that, and she wants to be able to change the course of history, and say, what if that thing did not happen that way and happened another way? What if the Roman Empire never existed? What would have happened? And she, I think she has a lot of questions about what if the French Revolution never happened? What if so many things you can think of? What if the US was still a colony of the UK? You have so many. I think. What's cool about it is with this what if thing about history is like everyone on Earth has an answer to that. We all have that dream of what this one thing we would love to change in history. So I think that's the first thing that Ashley loves, and I think and then the rest is to challenge yourself, to always try to be thinking on how I can optimize, be better, maybe a bit of kind of the chess kind of mind, and the last one, and it's kind of linked to the first one, but it's true. It's this kind of a dream thing. It's a moment when you play these games. You tend to play for hours. You often say, I'm going to play 5 minutes because it's easy. I can just play one turn, and 4 hours later you're still playing. You say, okay, now I really have to start one more turn, and it's the end of the night, and then you have to go to work, and that's it. So that's a bit how these games are, and it's about taking you a bit away from reality for as long as you want, and to be able to shape your dreams in the game, and that's why also we're investing so much in all this environment to make these dreams beautiful and nice to be in. We don't want you to be whipped in your dreams.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yes, I think there is also the kind of player that are the observer or the listener, and they want to go like a dream, as you said. And there is so much things to look, so much things to hear in our game. It's just kind of dream. It's a very peaceful. It's a good moment.
I was in the same boat as you were just describing. Like last night I was playing, and I was like, I'm just going to do a couple of turns here. And then it was just like an hour or two, because I'm like, I'm 2 turns away from building these walls, and I'm 2 turns away from my pottery facility, and I got to have my pottery, right? It just, I'm just like, I don't know what any of this stuff is.
Always have something coming, basically.
I know. I don't know what this is going to do for me long term, but whatever. I'm just clicking stuff. It's fun. It was neat, and the graphics were really cool. I loved a lot of the effects. I definitely want to talk about those. You were letting me know a little bit about how we did that stuff. But one more question here, kind of in this sort of category, if you will. A lot of this tech, like as you were explaining to me, Tim, and what we'll get into, was about like how the heavy graphics optimizations and stuff you did. I'm curious. So. Why did you guys choose Unity Engine for this? Obviously it's the Unity podcast, so I'm gonna have to ask that question. But like, why? What was the deciding factor for you guys?
So maybe before you give some of that answer, because there's a quick answer which is not just related to Tim, is in 2010. I think one of the reasons we were able to create Amplitude was because Unity was there. And I think, a couple of years before that, we could not have created Amplitude because we have been scared about creating our own tech or using a very expensive tech and not being able to finish again because of that. So, stupidly enough, one of the reasons why, okay, it's because now it's possible, and of course, when you for the first time at the time when you're looking at this, what you see is what you get kind of environment, and it felt so modern, and you just, wow, it's accessible, it's modern. For me as a designer, was like, oh, I can understand what's happening, so it felt good. And anyway, now we'll leave Tim to the more better answers than that.
It's very good answer, because the things with Unity is extensibility. If you want, you can just replace the part that don't fit with your project. So you start with Unity, and you make your first prototype, and it's very easy, and you have an immediate result, and it's everything fine. But if you want to make a more big project, you still can do it, because Unity is very convenient if you want to replace and change things. It's not static, and it's the main thing I like in Unity. Unity Basic also contains a lot of built-in functionalities that works very well, just like the ability to make tools, and Unity is very good for that.
Awesome, fantastic. So one of the things I was really liking yesterday, so I was playing the game, and there's obviously the fog where you haven't explored yet. You don't really know what's there. And it's cool because it still feels kind of like a map, but kind of like a world. But as you enter the fog, the world just sort of rolls up, which was like a really, really neat effect. And I was actually curious if you could talk a little bit about that, because I just thought it was really cool how it just sort of, it doesn't just like the clouds go away. The world just sort of rolls up and unfolds. It's really, really cool.
Yes, it comes from Endless Legend, and in Endless Legend we faced the similar issue, and we want to have a very cool effect when you explore. You have to be rewarded for the exploration. But you don't want to have just things pop, and you have to feel that you discover by yourself the world. So it's just built in front of you. And so we had to make some shader tricks to do that. And in fact, the Humankind is just to evolve things of it's push forward from Endless Legend.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the terrain is made a particular way, and we can do this kind of tricks, and it's one of our ability. It's because the terrain is just dynamic, and we can move it and blend it the way we want.
Yeah, and you were telling me about some really interesting optimizations, because you were talking about the sheer amount of stuff on the map and wildlife, and as you were saying, the sort of dynamic terrain, and how did you optimize that? Because that's a lot of stuff.
In fact, I just don't use the CPU basically. Because just I want to let it for the other developers, and I put everything on the GPU. And if you are able to use it correctly, and the GPU is a very, very powerful. But at start, the GPU is basically the main goal of GPU is to draw triangle. But if you can use it to do other stuff, and when you just want to draw maybe 10,000 objects in the screen, but 10,000 is not it's a small numbers compared to the millions of pixels that are computed each frame. So basically, I just use the GPU for doing what is usually did on the CPU, and I can handle 50,000 wildlife objects and 10,000 of particles, and it's not so much for a GPU, but you have to transfer everything from the CPU to the GPU, and it's not so easy.
Yeah, because GPUs are basically significantly faster than CPUs, but they just require very restricted environments and computational formats.
Yes, as long as it's not faster, but it's more parallel. You can do more stuff in the same time, and building a lot of tree in the forest is something that you can do in parallel. So that's why our setup of the the landscape we have in Humankind it's suit very well for the GPU. So,
and the terrain changes over time, right? As you were saying, and like
everything is dynamic. You can change a tile of forest in something else. You can change elevation, and not only on the editor, but also in the current game. So if there is an event that changes the elevation of a tile, just like Raulin people that just gain terrain on the sea, we can do it. It was on the beginning of the constraint. It was we want to have a dynamic terrain. We want to be able to have the sea level. We have to have a nice edge or things like that. It was on the beginning of the constraint.
So how do artists make? I mean, so obviously an artist sculpts a mountain, right? But your terrain is more or less dynamically generated and can change over time. Like, how does that work? Like, how create art assets for something like that?
In fact, we don't use geometry the usual way. We just produce the geometry every frame, and in fact, we encode the shape of the mountain, of the cliff in texture, and so we can just combine it, blend it to have all all with what we need. Say we want to have a mountain that blend to a cliff, that blend to it's everything. It's possible using texture.
But and then doing that, like all of that information resides entirely on the GPU, right?
Yes.
And then you have to get some of that information back to the CPU. How do you go about that?
So at the start of Endless Space 2, we knew that we were using the GPU for doing more stuff that we were doing before, and we know that we want to have data go back from the GPU to the CPU. For example, if there is an explosion, the explosion need to trigger an audio event, and the data must come back to the CPU because the audio is evolved on the CPU. And there is a very convenient method in Unity for that. It's the Async Readback. It's a way for a buffer to get back the data from the GPU, but asynchronously without stopping the render pipeline. And the function was missing a few years ago, and just at the end of the Endless Space 2, it was here. Hopefully, I was waiting for 2 years, I think. And people from Unity get very responsive for that.
Fair enough. So so basically you just put stuff in this buffer and then read it back on the CPU to see what all happened on the GPU and stuff. Awesome. It's just for some really cool effects, and I can't wait for people to check it out. Like just the sheer number of stuff. And you were talking about like just the sheer number of like animals and wildlife and everything that's going to be on this map and the effects. And I was actually, because you told me this when we talked previously, and so I was like specifically looking at the mountains, and I was trying to like look for gaps or seams or whatever. But it's just really, I know. I was like I'm gonna find some tile. Like he's lying. I'm gonna find some. It's really really cool. I really like how it all kind of. I mean, that's kind of like the theme of this game, blending, right? Like all this terrain blends, these cultures blend. It's all pretty slick. And actually, speaking of which, one of the things too that as I was playing yesterday, and you were talking about how cultures can change over time, civilizations can change over time, and stuff like that. It's not like I'm this culture and now I'm that culture. You have these things, and I forget the exact name, but like these legacy traits. It's like here's something that's you now, but this is going to be you forever. Like this trait, it will be part of your heritage, your ancestry.
Your legacy traits.
You'll just carry it on with you so even if you like were warlike and become peaceful, but you still have those roots. It was really neat. Just to like, so it's just always building and building.
Because
for that, yeah.
If we didn't leave, that if we took away anything from evolving, people would not have been evolving. They would have never desired to evolve. And at the same time, it's not really the purpose. The purpose is to say that this is our history that shaped us. So that's why it made a lot of sense. In immersion gameplay and and yeah, from all the playtests we have, it works great basically.
And go ahead, Tim. Sorry, I see you want to talk there.
And the legacy trait also appear on the terrain because when, for example, when you build a new district, it chooses a kind of map. Say it's a square one with the Roman way, or just organic one with
the city planning. City planning. Yeah.
Yes, and this when you change your civilization, when you change era, the city plan doesn't stay how it was. It just look like in our cities there's some part of the cities that is with a curvy road and other with straight road, and it appear on the games. We were very happy with it.
Yeah, you see that in real life. You go to an older city and you can just almost see the rings of it. Yeah.
It's basically even the buildings, that will stay. It's a bit like when you go to Rome. I think you see like 2,000 years of history, and it's the same idea. It's here. When you build a city, when you're Egyptians, you'll probably have that temple that will stay throughout the history if the city is not destroyed, of course. But and as you keep expanding your city, you can see the kind of the Roman quarter of the city, and you can see maybe the French quarter of the city, or then the Chinese quarter of the city. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and it ends up with these very messy, complex cultures. Yeah, that feels about right. That's awesome. Fantastic. What were and the game has kind of an interesting styling and stuff like that. Like what sort of influences played into the styling of not only just graphically but the gameplay and stuff like that?
We love basically all 4Xs. We've been big fans of Master of Orion, Civilization, the Paradox games, So obviously now I think we basically played every big 4Xs around indie or not indie. So so obviously even when without realizing it, there's a lot of influences from all these games in our games. But there's also I think what has been key for Amplitude is to try to go both beyond 4X, for inspirations, in RPGs, for Endless Legend, has been very important to us. You will find a bit of Heroes of Might and Magic that we worked on before. A bit of that in some inspirations, but also beyond gaming. And whether this is in terms of writing or art choices, Corinne, who's not with us today, but she's our art director. She's always trying to make sure she the last thing she wants to see is a game being fed by other games. She wants to make sure that the inspiration comes from around us, and especially in history. You want to make sure you don't find your inspiration on Google or on other games, but really through museums or through basically. So we have historians also helping us for Humankind, but to try to show us what it really looked like, and please do not look at Google to see what it looked like. So
okay, fantastic. So what I'm just curious, so there's a lot of ways to play this. There's obviously a lot of cultures that you can adapt and stuff like that. What would you say your guys' favorite way to play this might be? For me, I just go what's going to help me conduct war the best? That's just always, I'm just any technology for me is so can I make weapons out of it? That's how I play games. But I'm curious, for you guys, what's your style?
Well, for me, so it looks like I'm different from you because I'm more of a turtle type of guy. So I'm definitely not attacking everyone. But what you describe is my wife does the same. Whenever she plays a game, she attacks everyone she can attack. So she tends to lose quite fast, and it's funny because she's not like that in real life. But I don't know why when she plays our game, she wants to always attack everyone. But anyway, so different play styles. Now for me, what I love to do is, and that's why some mechanics that we have probably in our game maybe fits a bit my playstyle as well, but so to build an empire, try to be friends ish around me, and try to evolve fast with the high tech. Make sure I have a good army in case someone wants to attack me, and try to have always not the biggest army, but the most advanced one. Because I love this moment where I can have maybe like 3 tanks when the others have like a zillion archers, and see who will win. So it's all it's kind of this fun thing, and to try to be able to win the game without going to war ever is what I love to do. But you need to feel like you deserved it. It's you don't want it to happen because the AI is passive. It's only because the AI didn't find the right moment to attack you, and never was able to find the right moment to attack you, because you befriended them and found ways to ally against others. So that's why that AI didn't attack you. So it has to feel natural. But yeah, that's my playstyle.
Tim?
I'm not. I don't have a real playstyle, because just I start to play, and then look the animals, and then look everything, and I notice that here there is an issue, here there's an issue. So it's very difficult to go along that. But I was very happily surprised. Not surprised, because we work a lot for that. But with the last version, it's just like there is no more bug. And I can enjoy it. I can for the first time, because when you build a game with as a 3D developers, it's not like a visual. It's just only triangles and shader on it. It's very difficult to be inside the world, but it starts to with
it's
everything.
Hard to enjoy it when you make it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was a militarist when I play previous 4X, because previous 4X was mainly on military, in my opinion. And I'm getting older now, so I'm not so much interested in the military now.
Fair enough. I do like that what you were describing, where it's like, if the enemy does attack you, just this overwhelming technology, like they throw rocks and you're just like, laser beam. It's like, I win.
It's satisfying.
Yeah, it is very satisfying. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Exactly. So what were some of the things that, obviously this is a process of discovery as you're building these things. You obviously have played with the 4Xs, so you have a solid foundation, but as you're making them yourselves, what were some of the things that maybe you tried for Humankind that didn't work out, or that you just had a really hard time getting right?
So already the battle, it may not sound like it, but it was hell for us to make it work. It's funny because we did a very quick prototype on HTML5, was it? With William did?
At the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny because we did it very quickly to try all the rules, and it seemed, and the rules were fine very early on, so we're happy we're able to tune some of them, because of course we found some issues on mechanic, but when we had to transpose that in the game, the way our battles work, as it's an army deploying on the map. You can overlap another battle. You can have an army being stuck in your battle, trying just to look and say, okay, don't shoot me while you fight. So it's always a bit tricky, and you can have reinforcements that will expand the battle with new armies coming in. Battle can last several turns, so every turn new troops coming in, and the map expanding, then a city being in it that can be sieged. So all these possibilities, and was just insane. So we're getting there. We're happy about it, but it took a long time.
Yes, and we also have a lot of issue because of the amount of information on the terrain. When we play on the terrain, there is beautiful small things to look. But it is the time for the battle. You need to have a clear version of the battle. And so we were struggling to keep the very beautiful buildings, but at the end we had to remove them to have a more clear information. And it's very just heartbreaking. We tried
Maybe you'll find some way.
Maybe you'll find a way. everything to keep the trees and keep the building, but at the end we had to remove them for the clarity.
You're going to have a moment in a couple days where you're just going to go, wait a minute, and it's just going to be like, I got it.
Oh, we spent so many time, and the funny thing is we spend as much time in for Endless Legend, and we at the end we remove also the trees, and but this time we say, okay, we will find a way to keep everything, but
no, maybe
we take 2 years to finally decide, okay, we have a way. It's not the best, it's not the one we would have chosen, but it's the only one that works for now.
Yeah, that's got to be tough to pick the thing that's the right choice for the game, but it's not necessarily the vision. Fair enough. Awesome. Were there any mechanics around the blending of the cultures that you tried out that just took, didn't quite work out, or were too strong or didn't give you the right results?
First of all, we did try not keeping traits. It just didn't work out at all right away, so we removed that. We tried. What else did we try that failed? No, there's been a lot of questions about who can you become and cannot become. Can French evolve into a Chinese? Can a Chinese evolve into a Zulu? So it's obviously there's been a lot of discussions of that. So we tried to lock you in some possible cultures. And it always kind of felt a bit odd. Why can you evolve in this one, not that one? Really, can you evolve in this one? What if two players want to evolve into the same one and don't have any other choices left? What can they evolve into? So it always was a bit problematic. And the only consequences of that were actually to put you more in reals, and you felt not as rich. So it could have been a bit more immersive in terms of historical possibilities, but not as rich in terms of gameplay. So we had to rule in favor of gameplay and say, okay, let's leave it up to the player. If they want to evolve into something that feels historical good to them, they can do it. But if they want to evolve in whatever they feel good about at the moment, let's them do it. So it's I think that's been the trickiest discussion. I think we had a few hundred hours discussion on that one, but and tryouts basically. But yeah, it's yeah.
Are all the cultures historic real world cultures?
Yes, everything. Yeah, as I was telling you, we've been working all along with actually up to 3 historians, and that was part of the work of that was the cultures, and cultures. You want to make sure the whole world is represented, all the time periods are represented. So it's of course we are Europeans, so we obviously may have a little bias on that, probably because maybe we know a bit more history around us, but we wanted to make sure we can always look at everything that happened in the world, and at first we thought, we have 60 cultures, so it's plenty, we have more than enough to represent everyone, and in the end you end up by removing 100 or so cultures that you should be able to add and can't add because you only have 60. So it's so yeah, there's been a lot of painful choices to some cultures we would have loved to include and were not able to include. So.
Did you ever consider using cultures that weren't real? In this space, obviously sci-fi, so there's obviously different races and stuff like that. In a game like this, early on, did you consider not making it based on real cultures?
One of the first discussion we had when we started Humankind 4 years ago was, is it an endless game? Basically, is it history, but is Earth in the endless universe? So basically, could we have some bit crazy stuff sometimes? And the very quickly everyone agreed, no, it is not. It is not a fantasy universe. You don't have crazy stuff. Everything has to be purely historical. All the choices that we'll make have to be backed up by history. So yeah.
Fantastic.
And go very far in the detail. And so a couple of days before the lead artist and the one of the main historian just to make another review of all the units to check if everything is historical correct. The kind of weapon, the kind of thing, the
belts,
wear, and it's and we also feedback from people and say, oh, okay, exactly here it's not correct. You should change. Okay, we change.
Sounds incredibly difficult to get right. Yeah.
It's what's funny is like when you look at the treatment of a lot of the arts, we try to be modern in how we treat it. We want to make sure that we convey the emotion that works with your modern eyes, but at the same time, what you see in it has to be historical. So a fountain, what kind of actions may be happening.
One more potentially very random question, but it's something that I've been curious about since looking at the Humankind logo. Is there a reason the third finger is not attached to the hand in the logo like the other ones? Is that just there's a story behind that, or is that I noticed it?
Well, no. Originally, it's if you put your hand, on paint and against a wall, you may have some fingers not fully being attached, So actually, it's more the ones being attached are a bit weirder than the one not attached. But no, it's just because it looked a bit nice. You can see the circle, and you could have around the guy in the middle that could be happening there. So it's it's a bit more distinctive as well. So
Fair enough.
It took a while. Actually, originally it was two different logos. That we had the hands, for the kind of the beginning of humankind, kind of cavemen, in their caves, kind of putting their hands in paint and against the wall, and same time, that's that Vitruvian man, kind of a symbol of humanity, and so.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I just wasn't sure. Yeah, that's good though. So, a couple of things just as we're starting to wrap up a little bit. I'd really love to know from each of you. What about the game you're most proud of?
At Amplitude.
No, just you, but you two, specifically you two. This game, you've worked on it. You put in blood, sweat, and tears into it. What are you most proud of?
Of Humankind.
Yes.
In Humankind.
Yes.
Well, so much. I would say for me, it's the sheer number of elements that we have in the game, and to make them work together, it is so huge. So I think the immensity of the game is something I'm very proud of. But then after that, there's a long list of things I'm so happy about. So of course, there's stuff I'm still working on, and I could also say, oh, this stuff, we still need to make it better. But that's why I would say the immensity of the game.
And on my side, definitely is the wildlife, the small animals. It was last year, I think. We feel the landscape was very, very nice, but a bit dead because there's no motion. And we try to. I try to make some of the crazy thing, and it works. And I like very much the small animals because people get an emotion bond with them, and they are very happy to see them. They say, "Oh, it's so cute." They like to play with it. I'm very proud of it.
Awesome. Is there any of those, like, I don't know if anyone who played Warcraft or Starcraft, you click on the animals enough times, eventually they explode. I don't know if there's any Easter eggs like that in there.
We don't kill animals.
Fair enough.
Yes, a lot of people ask me to have the option to kill animals. I say no. They're so cute.
Sorry, they're on the GPU. I can't touch them.
Yes, you can because they feel the most the moose. It's a one of the behaviors that blend with one of the behavior of the animals is the fear or love of the god, and god is your mouse cursor. And if you move, they're afraid of it, and if you stop moving, they just want to see.
That's funny.
It's very funny.
There was actually a bear inhabited my copper mine in my game last night, and I'm just like, get out of here, bear. And everyone started worshiping it, and I'm like, all right, fine, go for it, whatever. Magic bear. What would you say is the thing that you most importantly discovered while making this game? About the process or about yourselves or whatever. Just what did you learn that was just like a very valuable lesson?
So, I think so many, basically. Well, it just there's something I should have known, and you always remember that it's something you should do, but to work on a game for such a long run, basically, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. It's a marathon. It is a long marathon. So I think you have to be really careful of the sprints, and when basically you sprint if you want to reach the end line. And it's a game. I think again, that's why I speak about the immensity. But I don't think we realized the immensity of the game when we first started working on it. Probably, I hope I will be a bit more careful with that on the next one. I've been extremely lucky, to have a very patient Sega and team as well. So it's, marathon.
Nice.
Don't sprint all the time.
Pace yourself. Yeah. Okay.
Patience. Yes. This game was on my side. This was 20 years. Not conclusion, but because it's, and I put everything I learned in my 20 years of coding inside the game, and I learned new things also. But we knew that you need to have a very good team to make a good game, and this one we found a very good team, and everything worked together. It was very, very good.
Awesome.
So we learn it again. If you do it well, if the people work the good way and people are at the correct position, everything will, with some luck, everything will go to a good game. It will produce a good game.
Awesome. So, I mean, obviously a very ambitious project, right? What advice might you have for other teams who are starting such an ambitious project? Fair enough.
No, but definitely don't start by that. That's for sure. So if you want to do such an ambitious project, make sure to gradually get there, because I think we've been able to resist that marathon because we had a few games behind us with team and most basically of the leads. We've been quite a tight team working on quite a few games. We know each other quite well, and I think that's the only reason why we've been able to make it such a good game and survive it. I think we would have been a brand new team. We've been Amplitude 10 years ago and decided to start by Humankind. We wouldn't be there, that's for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure maybe it would be sure that you have the key people at the beginning of the game, and you don't have the time to hire on to find the good guy or girl after the project has begun, and there's so many decisions that needs to have a very, very good insights to avoid big mistakes that make big costs. If at the beginning you choose the wrong way technically, you will pay a lot. So you have to have a good advice for the designer to avoid the pitfall. And so be sure to have the correct team before.
Okay. Fair enough. Awesome. So where can people find Humankind, find information about Humankind, keep up to date with news?
You can go on Games Together. It's gamestogether.com. It's our community website where we invite the community to participate in the creation of Humankind. I think it's the best way to get the information and maybe participate in still improving the game. We had a few open developments already last summer, and maybe we'll have soon other ways for the players to come and play the game and help us make it the best 4X ever.
Awesome. Fantastic. And then, so what's next for Amplitude? Obviously, you're still working on Humankind, but after that, like what can you talk about?
Well, now, right now it's definitely, honestly, we're so busy. It's mostly Humankind. We always have dream projects around. The main focus for us is just to get Humankind right, and it's not around the corner yet, so maybe around the corner, so we still need to focus.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. This has been fantastic. I appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out, answer some questions, talk about, blowing up some animals and waging war and and maybe the right way to do it, not my way. But this is, we've been talking about Humankind, talking with Amplitude Studios. And just thanks, guys, so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a great day. Cheers.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.